right, it's 6:20 here, Big 550 KTRS, and Trey Harden lives in a world where Donald Trump is pushing 30% in a 17-person race, and his Washington Nationals are 6.5 games behind the Mets in the East as they lick their wounds after last night's tough loss here in St. Louis. Good morning, Trey Harden.
Oof, good morning, McGraw. And it was that kind of last night's game says it all for the Nats this season. It's very indicative of where they have been or where they're not going to be after September.
Boy, I know this is our political segment, but they had Strasburg, they had Scherzer, they've got Bryce Harper, they got a bunch of other guys. What happened to the Nationals?
I mean, it's hitting, and those pitchers kind of over the course of the season have underperformed, but they've not hit the baseball well enough. And but then, last night when they actually hit the ball pretty well, because I think your Cardinals ran into a little difficulty in their bullpen because of lack of right arms or whatnot. They hit the ball last night. The Nats did, and then their pitching let them down. So I don't know. 6.5 games is a lot to make up against the Mets. I think for them to even have a chance, they have to take at least 2 out of 3 from the Mets next week, and if they don't, I don't think that there's even a chance of getting close. It's a lot to make up in 1 month.
Just remember, Trey, it's the Mets, and the Mets can do just about anything. So never lose hope.
They can, but their pitching's darn good. I'll tell you.
Let's talk politics.
Got it.
Hillary can't get away from this email scandal. She just there's nothing she can do. I don't know if it's her fault or the news cycle we're in, but she is destroying her campaign.
Well, yeah, and I think something that not enough people are talking about is that the Democrats are not coming to her defense as a whole. You don't really see many of them at all. I mean, they view her as a third rail radioactive right now. I think her candidacy is in a downward spiral. It's going to take a very talented pilot to pull out of it. Now, granted, we've seen the Clintons do some pretty significant things over the years politically, but she's certainly not her husband, and I think that she's not able to pull the rabbits out of the hat like her husband did because she doesn't have that personality and that relatability to be able to maybe shift or to distract from these issues. But I think she's in trouble, and that's why I think you're seeing more and more momentum and support for Crazy Joe.
I think there's permanent damage being done, even with the people who aren't paying a whole lot of attention. All they keep hearing is Hillary and emails. They know clearly something's wrong because they keep talking about it, and it's that sort of fatigue factor. They're just tired of Hillary and complaining, and so they just might vote for somebody else just so they don't have to hear about Hillary anymore.
Exactly. And McGraw, the other thing too is even if it's not this issue, I think it makes them think that, well, if it's, even if we don't think this issue is a huge issue, although it certainly is when you're talking about classified material, but even if it's not this issue, I think it makes them think about how easy something else could potentially come up between now and next November. And I think that's what scares a lot of Democrats from the electability standpoint, that that there's a price to pay for arrogance, political arrogance, which many people think that the Clintons have had for years, and it's why I think many Democrats were not happy about her being kind of the assumed candidate from the beginning, because when you're arrogant, you're sloppy. When you're arrogant, you're not cautious or responsible or accountable at times, and I think they makes them worry that this would just be the first of many things that could pop up between now and next November.
Here's a question I think Republicans have to ask themselves, because I think Democrats also have to ask themselves this question is, who would you rather run against today? Would you rather run against Hillary, or would you rather run against Joe Biden? Because quite frankly, it's looking like if you're a Republican, you'd much rather have Hillary win this thing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and I think they've always been licking their chops to run against Hillary. I mean, one of the things that I think doesn't get talked about enough is, sure, does she represent the chance for there to be the first female president in history? Yes, but she does not have the support of women. It is not a lock for her at all. In fact, I would say that it's a very uphill battle for many women in this country to vote for her to get their vote, because again, she's not relatable. You can't just be a woman candidate and all of a sudden get the women's vote. You've got to be able to have a relatable story, or be able to talk to women as a female candidate in a relatable way, and I just don't think she has that ability or that personality or reputation. So, I think that right now, either candidate, I think, is appealing to the Republicans to run against. But, that doesn't mean Republicans are unified right now and have their own, don't have their own set of problems.
Donald Trump, everyone knows about him, but don't look now. But Ben Carson is rising in the polls all over the place. What is it about Republicans don't like people who have experience?
Well, I think you have to look at the polls historically. I mean, September 1 in 2011, the person who was leading by far was Rick Perry, and Michelle Bachmann even had a good percentage of the vote. Then you go even to October 21st of December of 2011, Herman Cain was winning with 26%. And then even in January, Cain and Perry and Bachmann, they weren't even in the race anymore. So it's obviously there's a lot of volatility right now. I think that what Ben Carson and Trump and these non-politician type candidates, although I think they're politicians, last time I checked, but these non-political or politician type candidates have an appeal because the voters right now, the mood of voters, especially now with Republican voters, is they want the outsider. They don't want a candidate that's playing it safe. I think people, that's why Scott Walker and Jeb Bush maybe aren't doing as well right now, because it doesn't appeal. But that playing it safe may be what is sustainable and be there in the end. And I think you look at what happened back in 2011, 2012 when we had kind of this circus going on and this many candidates in the Republican Party, and it just took a few months for it to kind of play itself out. So it just reminds us it's early and that these things are kind of roller coaster rides.
Trey Harden, who is looking forward to Jim Harbaugh's reign at Michigan, right? That's the next thing you have to look forward to, right?
Absolutely. Can't wait for it. And it's all about Ohio State beating them.
There you go. All right, Trey, have a good week. Thanks.
You too. Bye.
627 here, Big 550 KTRS. Labor Day comes up.